2,000 years ago, some Celts were farming and noticed, hey, it's getting pretty chilly at this time of year. And chilliness can only mean one thing: ghosts. And now we have Halloween. All throughout this month I'll be posting reviews of spooky games, which I was kind of doing before, but hey, now it's in season. And we're kicking this off with Deathbloom, Chapter 1, a one-man indie project sculpted in the format of horror classics such as Resident Evil. Now, I don't want to bring up Resident Evil too much in this review because the game has to have its own identity, so I'm not going to say it again for the rest of the video. That being said, let's jump in. The game opens with a text intro which almost immediately name-drops Providence, Rhode Island, a place well known for two things: H.P. Lovecraft and fuck all else. And the rest of the setup is based on mysterious letters and dead relatives in New England, so yeah, it's goddamn Lovecraftian. I genuinely didn't know. I know it's very on-brand for me, but really I had no clue. I'm not complaining either. Now I can judge it even harder and waste even more of your time. But there's no time for that at the moment because we're now Christina. It's 5 years ago. Flashback time. Now you might ask, are we really having a flashback sequence in the middle of a text intro before the game has even begun? Yes. But wow, isn't this place pretty? Honestly, the looks of this place made me forget about the odd flashback pacing. We're in some creepy mansion with spooky mannequins, scary corpses, and terrifyingly small subtitles. Nonetheless, the lighting is so bloody good that I don't know what eldritch shit is going on here, but wow, it just looks so nice. Unfortunately, this lighting does come at a price. The dreaded Unity curse. There's stuttering, freezing, and general clunkiness. Because, you know, Unity, it's great. For developers. Anyway, this intro is your standard PT style affair. Walk while spooky things happen until it very swiftly ends. And when it does end, we're booted back to the regular intro with the Lovecraft and the whatnot. And wow, this place isn't pretty. Where did my nice lighting go? While the odd flashback sequence makes a lot more sense now, that was the developer saying, hey, listen, the lighting at the start of the game, not good. But later on it's like, so just, you know, hold out until then. But otherwise, I actually preferred this section of the game to the prologue, because the whole walking simulator horror format, while potentially interesting, is remarkably difficult to do well, or at least well enough to differentiate the game from all of the others in the genre. But this garden section is nice. It moves away from that, it moves towards a more Colat-y style of semi-open, semi-spooky, semi-inducing exploration. It really reminds me of Scratches, actually. There's a creeping sense of wrong, but there's no immediate threat. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that from a one-man Unity game. It doesn't ever reach the heights that Scratches reaches, but nothing does. So it's impressive regardless. Anyway, after the garden section begins the real game. It's very apparent at this point that the game is heavily inspired by Inhabitant Bad. Because it's a spooky mansion, lots of doors, Zambonis. I only have so many lightning effects, and so on. And while this does create a kind of nostalgic feeling of, oh, it's like I'm playing Citizen Spooky, but with the delivery of, Occupant Not-Nice 7, I would say that it goes a little too far with it. Like, yeah, cool, you can have your labyrinthian corridors and statue puzzles, but VHS tapes being put in projectors to reveal secret doors, and EDM records played on gramophones to open vaults is where I decide to draw the line. Some parts of survival horror should be left in the past. Also, the scary dogs. Everyone knows the scariest part of Denison Morally Reprehensible was this. And in Deathbloom, it was this. The slow motion feels so- oh my god! So, at the very least, we can't claim it's not faithful to, Homeowner Villain. So, how about this story? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because I didn't really pay any attention. Now, some of you will say that as a reviewer, I need to be engaged with the narrative and give it a chance to shine, but listen, do you know how many games tell stories through notes and virtually nothing else? Because that's what this does. And do you know how many of those games are good? Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's that? We're in a house with a cult and zombies? Oh, do tell me more. I don't mean to belittle the game's story, because I know it's just evoking the classic standards of the genre, but in this case, it's not doing anything for me. So how about the gameplay? Well, it's largely fine, but it has a few quirks. Other than the classic Unity charm of absolute clunk, there's also the confusing weapon cycle system, inconsistent environmental interactivity, hit markers, and- wait, hold up. What? Did you say hit markers? Oh, shit, yeah, I did say hit markers. What the fuck? I don't really know what to say about that. Don't put hit markers in your atmospheric horror game. I didn't think that was something that really needed to be said, but here we are. My god, it truly is spooky month. If you followed the channel for a while now, you'll know I've covered a few single developer games so far, and adding this one into the mix makes me realize there's a pattern emerging. Look at the good ones, and then the not so good ones. What's the difference? Focus. These ones are trying so hard to make a good game that they lose focus. UIEB was all over the place and way too ambitious. Unfortunately, Deathbloom is going down that same road. But September 1999, the Norwood Suite and Pagan managed to stay grounded. They're concise, they know their limits, and they're all Unity games too, so it's not just a technical thing. Also, note the difference in gameplay. In UIEB, you've got crafting, survival, driving, FPS elements. In Deathbloom, you've got inventory management, FPS, survival horror stuff going on. But in the Norwood Suite, you just kind of walk around and interact with stuff every so often. In Pagan, well, Pagan's fucking weird. And in September 1999, you basically do nothing for 5.5 minutes. Yet these latter three are more fun, or at the very least more captivating. Because gameplay, or simple interactivity, is just another medium for entertainment in the same way video, audio, atmosphere, and tone are. But we're in a place where small developers feel the need to emulate the gameplay format of developers several thousand times their size. Don't shoot for the moon and miss. Focus on getting the gun working first. And don't put fucking hit markers and slow motion in your horror. On the topic of horror, how scary is it? Not massively, but I think that's okay. It feels like many people expect horror games to have a certain threshold of fear that they need to reach, but I don't think so. So long as you're thematically there, you don't actually need to scare us all that much. Alone in the Dark and Resident Evil 1 are not shocking experiences, but nobody will deny that they are horror. And then you get something like Dark Souls, which to many people is scary. But how many people call that horror? Not many. And I think this is why so many horror games are, to put it politely, dog shit. Developers get so concerned with how to scare their players that they forget about atmosphere, themes, pacing, and so on, ultimately harming the experience. Deathbloom doesn't do this. It's not super scary, but it's definitely competent horror. Good job. It's a developer who understands what they're trying to do. Although I do have to deduct points for thematic consistency, because you can't have a spooky ghost cult mansion filled with zombies and secrets, and then throw a super out-of-place wall of guns our way. Well, to be fair, this is inspired by being existing within, bad boy, very cross, so I guess I should have expected that. Why aren't you saying anything, Painticus? Well, I'm glad I asked, because there's not much else to say. While a lot of this video may come across as criticism, there's also a lot of good elements to this game. They're just not particularly notable. The only one that stands out is the presentation. The UI, maps, heads-up display, and menus are all very nice. Audio options would have been good, but other than that, it's all fine. Can you tell that I was expecting there to be more to say? Like, good or bad, just give me something to say, Deathbloom. It's spooky season, don't do me like this. Alas, I have been done like this. And I'm kind of at the end of the video. Deathbloom is fine. It has drawbacks, but the developer shows some clear understanding of the fundamentals of horror, even if that is diluted by hit markers and Kalashnikovs. And in any case, thank you for watching. Join me next week for a video that is most definitely going to be more interesting than this one. Follow me on Twitter at PainticusYT, on Twitch at twitch.tv/Painticus. Link to my Discord is in the description, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Oh, you thought I forgot about the Lovecraft stuff? Well, yeah, so did Deathbloom.